Elijah's a great example. What other examples? Someone who suffered intensely after, yeah.
We have Joseph who goes down, up, down.
Yep.
And we don't see the down so much because God had already provided the assurance of what was going to happen. So everyone was already looking to him for guidance. But those 7 years that aren't written about could not have been easy.
Yeah.
Because he was now second in command and those are the pieces there.
Yeah. I mean, he's exalted by his father, given this gift of the coat. Then his brothers throw him in a pit and sell him into slavery. Then he gains favor in Potiphar's house. Then his wife lies about him and he's thrown back in prison. And then finally he's exalted to second in command over the country of Egypt. So yeah, Joseph's a great example. Multiple times, trials following triumphs. Yes, sir.
I hesitate to say this one, but even Christ, when he came in and they were throwing coats down,
Yeah.
palm branches, and the next thing you know, he beat them.
100%. 100% yes. Even like at the beginning of his ministry, look, it's the Lamb of God who takes away the sin of the world. Go follow him. And then the temptation in the wilderness. And then the triumphal entry, he's our king, and then crucify him. So yes, absolutely, he's a great example. There are others. Yes?
Well, I hesitate to say this one too, but Adam and Eve come along.
Okay.
And they had it all.
They had it all, and then they lost it all. They failed the test. Abraham.
Blessing of promise, and then
Ooh, I had not thought of that one, but that is a good one. Huge triumph. God promises the son. Now I have my son, and I love my son. And then the test. Give me your son. And he passed the test. My word, how hard would that have been? But you've got Job, the wealthiest man in the world. The wealthiest man in the East, it says. And then God tested him by taking everything away from him. Daniel was born a noble's son. He was a nobleman. And then he was taken off to Babylon, right? And you could probably, think of many, many other examples in Scripture. So this does bear true that tests often follow triumphs. Okay? The second point was that bitter circumstances often reveal bitter hearts. We assign blame to others when there's really no blame to be had. We doubt God's good plan for us. So let's take this idea of bitter circumstances revealing our bitter hearts. I heard it said a long time ago, and this has stuck with me: hurting people hurt people. Hurting people hurt people. So is that true, that hurting people hurt people? I see a lot of people going like, oh yeah. Why do you think that is true? Why do you think that's true? That a hurting person is going to hurt other people? Yes. Misery loves company. You're happy, I'm miserable. Why don't you join me? Okay? Yes. That's a good point. That's a good point. You're so introspective that you don't even realize people are trying to help and be a minister, and you're pushing them away. That can hurt them. Yes?
Like bullying, they do it to make themselves look more important and better.
Yeah.
The person they're bullying.
They're hurting. They feel small and insignificant because maybe someone in their life has chopped them down for a long, long time, and now they feel small and they feel worthless, and so the only way I can make myself feel better and bigger and more significant is by using my words or, even physical violence to put you down, and now look at me, I'm better than you. So yeah, I think it is true. And so how does God use our suffering to reveal our old nature that needs to be changed? How does God use our suffering to reveal things about me that need to change?
Or it should be through the life of someone else that notices that in your life, that comes to you with a humble spirit and attitude to help you to see what's going on.
Yeah.
So he uses other people in your lives as Christians do that.
Yeah, so he uses the means of other voices speaking truth into your life? Yes. That's what students do in my class all the time. They raise their hand and she took mine. My favorite is when I'll ask a question like that, a student will raise his hand and I'll be like, yes. And he's like, can you come back to me? Sure. Okay. How does God use our suffering to reveal our old nature? Have you ever felt like everything is fine in your life? Everything's good. And then all of a sudden, something hits and you respond in a way that forces you to say to the people around you, oh, I didn't mean that. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean it. That's not really me. That's not really me. You know me. That's not who I am. I didn't mean it. All those sorts of things. When in reality, what God is doing is he's allowing life to sort of bump you off balance. And when you're off balance, the real you comes out. The real you comes out when you're bumped by life. And there's a guy, used to be one of my teachers in college who used to mention like a teacup, right? There you are balancing your life in a little teacup. The real you is inside the cup. No one can really see what you've got in the cup. And then all of a sudden, some kid runs into you and bang, spills out of the cup. Well, what comes out of the cup? The only thing that ever comes out of the cup is what was already in the cup. So when we're bumped and what comes out of our mouth is bitterness, complaining, selfishness, hurtful words, where did that come from? Nothing comes out of my heart that wasn't already in there to begin with. And sometimes God allows life to bump us and stuff spills out and we excuse it. That's not really me. That's not who I am. I didn't really mean that. But God is trying to say, oh yeah, you did. That's what's really inside of you. What did Jesus say? Nothing that goes into a person's body can defile him. It's not what goes into your mouth that defiles you. It's what comes out of a person's mouth that defiles them. And he ends by saying, out of the overflow of the heart, a person speaks. You speak what is in your heart. So when I walk outside this past week, and it's stinking mid-November, and I walk out and immediately beads of sweat start to form, and I say, oh, it's so hot out here. When is it going to cool off? That's what's in my heart, a complaining spirit. And that tiny little trial, tiny little test, is he going to praise me even when it's humid outside, or is he going to complain? That little complaining comes out of my mouth and I think, wow, God, I have a complaining spirit. That's me. And only when we're honest with ourselves can we really experience the healing that God wants us to experience. As long as we say, that's not really who I am, then there's no healing for that person. As long as we're saying, that person makes me so mad, then how can I be healed if my anger comes from them? How can I be healed if that person is the one making me mad? But if I get to the point where I say, you know what? I have an angry heart, and that person's really good at bumping me, and that anger spills out. God, I've got an angry heart. I've got a complaining spirit. I've got a selfishness in me that needs to be healed. Then we won't come to him for healing. So God uses suffering to expose who we really are on the inside so that we can be honest and go to him for healing. Okay? Then he said, faith in the Lord is never misplaced. And one of the things that he said that stuck out to me was prayer should be a reflex. As soon as I experience a test, my reflex should be prayer to God. Doesn't have to be on my knees. Bow your heads, close your eyes, on your knees beside your bed. It can just be, wow, God, I'm really tempted right now to respond in the sinful way. Please help me. Right? So if prayer should be a reflex, my question is, what are some reasons that prayer isn't a reflex for us when we experience any kind of test? Yes, Ellen. I got this. I can handle this one. Yep.
My best friend, whenever I was finishing school, she and I were talking one day, and she said, yeah, there are times when I feel like God is waiting, and if I just say one more thing to him, it's going to drive him absolutely crazy, and he's going to run screaming out the door.
Ooh.
And I'm like, there are people that are suffering worse than I am. There are people with worse problems than I am. I shouldn't take up his time because my problems are minor compared to others.
Yeah. It's so funny that you mention that because in our home group, which meets on Monday nights, we're going through, well, I think everyone is who's in a home group, going through that book, Gentle and Lowly. And that's like a whole chapter is about how we tend to think if I come to God with my problems, he is probably so frustrated with me because I'm the one with all the problems. No one else at Holiday Bible Church has problems, but I have all this junk going on in my life Monday through Saturday, and if I bring one more need to the Lord, he's just going to smack me, right? And the whole premise of this book, which has been so good, is that God loves to help his children. He's not like me. He's not like me as a dad when my kids come to me and they've got their math problems. And the first one, I'm helpful. Well, let me help you with that. Let me take it. Second one is like, well, we've gone over this. Remember, you got to carry the one here and you can get this now. And then the next time is like, all right, I've been through this. And then the last time is like, do it on your own. How many times do I have to tell you how to do this same thing? It's the same problem, just different numbers, And we assume that God is like us, easily frustrated. But he's not. He loves it. Loves to meet us in our trouble so that he can help us where we are. We don't have to, I'm in trouble right now. If I can just get my life a little bit under control, then I'll come to him. But right now I can't come to him because I'm a wreck. He loves wrecks. He loves screwed up, messed up people. Those are the people that he can help. But when we say, my life is pretty much together, so I can probably handle this. Don't want to bother him. That's the people, he can't help that, right? But when we come to him, he can help us. Yeah.
We can stop this conversation at any point because it's certainly driving home some reminders for me. But I think two things. One of them is that ultimately shows our view of God and how
Yeah.
we view him.
Yeah.
But then second of all, it unfortunately proves that we're not praying without ceasing.
Mm.
Because when we're praying without ceasing, we're having a conversation with our Savior. And too many
Yeah.
times, like Ellie said, I can do it on my own. This one's got, take a rest. You have too much, you hear from me too much. I'll take this one.
Yeah.
And then I'll take the next one since I got that one solved.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden now we've gone away from God and we're not having a communion with God in our daily life. And
Yeah.
I need to stop preaching to myself because
You're stepping on your own toes there. But yeah, I think you're absolutely right. Pray without ceasing doesn't mean you spend all your time on your knees. It means don't think of prayer as something you only do on your knees by your bedside at night. Prayer is a constant conversation with a person throughout the day. And some blessing happens, they're like, wow, Lord, thank you very much. That was really encouraging. I hope that glorifies you. And then something negative happens, and it's like, wow, Lord, you got to help me through this one. I don't know how I'm going to respond to this email. I don't know how I'm going to respond to this comment from my boss about my performance. God, please help. I think of, who was it, Nehemiah? I think it was Nehemiah when he got the bad news about Jerusalem, and he was in the presence of the king, and the king said, "You've never been sad in my presence before. Why are you sad?" Now, it is a dangerous thing to be sad in the presence of a king. Kings don't like downers, right? Debbie Downer, sorry, Debbie, but kings don't like people to be sad. Get out of here, Matter of fact, he's so sad. Why does he need that head? Take it off. Get him out of here, right? Kings are like, this is a Babylonian king, right? Babylon, I think. I don't know. Anyways, I'm pretty sure he's in Babylon. And so he says to the king says, "Why are you so sad?" And it says, "I prayed to the God of heaven, and then I responded, why shouldn't I be sad? My people are living in exile." So it says, he prayed to the Lord. Just a quick little, oh boy, I'm in trouble. The king knows I'm sad. God, you're going to have to help me through this. All right, why shouldn't I be sad? It's not that fast of a prayer. But it's because he had an ongoing conversation going with the Lord. Prayer isn't our reflex because I can handle it. I don't want to bother God. Is there any other reason, Bo?
I just think to press into that a little more, I think some of this reflects on the way that we view our entire relationship with God, and that it's less of a relationship and more of a contract regarding the exchange of goods.
Ooh, yeah.
Rather, like, I will give you prayer when I need something.
Yeah.
But if I don't feel a need at the moment, then there's not much of a relationship beyond it.
Yeah, and one of the chapters even said how God does not deal with us in terms of contracts and agreements. In that book, there was one chapter, I remember it was near the very end. But we often do. All right, God, let's deal. I will live this way for the rest of my life. I'll go to church, I'll sing to you, I'll read my Bible, I'll pray, I'll help out in the soup kitchen on Thanksgiving, I'll do all this stuff, and then at the end of the day, you give me eternal life, all right? Let's shake on it, okay? And then when stuff goes wrong in our lives, it's like, well, probably this is going wrong because I'm not upholding my end of our agreement, and so I better get back into the swing of things, and then I'll come to him and he'll answer my prayers. It's not a contract, it's a relationship. And this relationship did not begin when you trusted him as your Savior. This relationship with you began in eternity past, when God foreknew you, not what you would do, he foreknew you. He predestined you. He called you. He sanctified you. He justified you. He sanctifies you, and he will glorify you. This relationship is all from God. And the benefits that we experience cannot be taken away because we're not the one who initiated the relationship. He initiated it. And so our relationship with him will continue as long as he lives, which is forever. So that's good news. All right, and then one last thing. Bo went over, so I can too. Rest comes after the test. Rest comes after the test. Now, I thought about this, Joseph experienced a degree of rest in Egypt. He's the second in command. He's the boss. Experienced that. Abraham experienced rest after the test. You get to keep your son Isaac. Congratulations. And there's that. And then, you've got Jesus, for the joy that was set before him, endured the cross and then passed the test. There was one other one, though. Job. He had everything, lost everything, and then the very end of the book says he gained even more than what he had. So they're given rest in this life. But sometimes Christians get cancer and they die. So how can we say that rest always comes after the test? Sometimes Christians go through a lifetime of suffering and then they die. And so I love that Pastor Bo brought in, 1 Timothy or 2 Timothy 4, where it says or maybe it's not, 1 Corinthians 4, that I consider that the sufferings of this present time are not even worth comparing to the eternal weight of glory that we're going to experience in the next life. This is a light, momentary affliction, which afterwards yields an unending eternity of rest and joy and peace and happiness. And I haven't thought, after 1 million, billion, trillion years of the presence of Jesus, are we going to look back and say, man, that trial was so long. Oh my goodness. 4 whole years of that. And then I died from it. Oh my goodness gracious. That was the worst. No! We're going to look back, 1 second into heaven, we're going to look back and go holy cow, that was nothing. And now I'm here forever. Right? So the eternal weight of glory just makes every trial that we experience now, including any sinus afflictions you might be suffering, the trials that we experience now in this life are they pale in comparison. Now, that's not to say that when we go through trials, we don't suffer and we don't grieve. We absolutely do. And the scriptures tell us, rejoice with people who are rejoicing and weep with people who are weeping. There is weeping in this life. At the moment, no, seems pleasurable, but rather, no discipline for the moment seems enjoyable, but it grieves us. But afterward, it yields the peaceful fruit of righteousness to those who are trained by it. Yeah, that's Hebrews 12. No trial for the moment seems oh yeah, this is nothing, eternity in heaven. It grieves us, and we do weep when we are faced with these serious tests. But I think what the point of what Bo was getting at, and the point of the text there and all over the New Testament, is when we're in our trials, we take comfort to know that the worst thing that could happen to me is that I die in this trial. The worst thing is that I suffer for the rest of my life and then I die. And then heaven for all eternity. So we keep these things in perspective when we're going through trial. It doesn't drive us to despair. Isn't that what it says in Corinthians? What does Paul say? We're cast down but not driven to despair. we're persecuted, but not, I don't know, you look it up on your own, but you know what I'm talking about, right? We go through all these things, but it doesn't lead us to despair. It leads us to hope, I think it's 1 Corinthians where it says that we grieve for those who pass away. We grieve, but not as those who have no hope. We grieve hopefully. We grieve joyfully. We grieve, but there's that flavor of joy and peace and contentment, knowing that this world is not my home. I've got an eternity with Jesus to look forward to. And so any trial I meet now is not even worth comparing to the glory that I will experience for all eternity in his presence. All right? So I think we can go in the strength of that word today and make it through Saturday, and then we'll regather on Sunday to worship Christ again. All right? Let's pray. Father, thank you for this time. Thank you for each of the members here. I pray that your blessings would be upon them in a real way this week, and that we would look for blessings to praise you for, but even in our trials, I pray that we would notice when we're going into a trial, and that in that trial, in that test, that we would pass the test by talking to you about it in prayer and trusting you to accomplish your perfect will in our lives, no matter what that will might be. I pray that we would pass the test and live for your glory in our trials this week, and we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen. You are dismissed. God bless. Have a great week.